So what's the difference between £1,000 Ibanez and like 3 times more? So when it comes to Ibanez guitars, there are GOs, standards, premium, sitting right in the middle, prestige, J customs, and J customs. So I'll get into that later because it might seem confusing at first, but I'll tell you first on why I skip out on GOs and standards. They're generally just not super well built, let's put it that way. A lot of them are made in China and the QC there is quite shoddy. To be as straightforward as possible, the more you go up in the ranges of guitar prices, you're going to pay for QC, you're going to pay for the wages of guitars being manufactured in countries that are not cheap, because the quality of the guitar parts on especially the premium line and up is all going to be nearly the same. Premium line for Ibanez serves as a more experimental line. They have like 9-piece necks, flame, quilted top, blah blah blah. This has a quilted top and pearl binding, which is really cool. Premium lines are probably one of the best looking for the price currently. What you need to know is that Ibanez uses Gotoh parts within premium line and up. So whether you're paying $1,000 or $3,000, you're going to get essentially the same hardware from the same manufacturer. Tuners are where it's going to be the same across the board. If it's a hardtail guitar or a guitar without a locking tremolo, you're going to get Gotoh locking tuners. Now there are 2 versions of this, height adjustable post and the thumb wheel locking version. They're the same quality, they just function differently. As for bridges, any of the Ibanez premium and up that have tremolo or a vibrato system is going to be manufactured by Gotoh in Japan. As for the pickups, all Ibanez are probably going to use either bare knuckle, DiMarzio, or Seymour Duncan, premium and up. So essentially all the parts that you see, you're going to get good hardware treatment where it's going to work great. Now on this exact model, we have an ebony fretboard and roasted maple neck, which is awesome. I have no complaints. All the parts behind are plastic. The cavity is coated with shielding paint. As for the parts that you cannot see in the electronics, all of them use essentially the same wires, but the premiums will have a small alpha pot. For this guitar specifically, I had to change out the tone pot. It just stopped working halfway through. I just don't like the fact that they're using the same electronics that you'd find in an Ibanez GO, which is like 5 times less expensive. Also, another point to note is that the bodywood, this is a 3-piece basswood, I think, basswood. So when you go up into the line, you still get 3-piece alder, basswood, ash, mahogany. You're not gonna find like 2-piece or 1-piece body in these Ibbys. The switches in the Ibanez guitars all across the board will be a PCB switch. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but you just cannot mod the pickups or the configuration, except if you go up to the Gem, Pia, or the J Custom line. In that case, they will give you a VLX91, which is a 5-way super duper super switch. Now, let's get into Japanese made guitars. This is an RG652 AHM. So again, we have a 3-piece body. It's ash, very light. It has a 5-piece maple wingate neck, which is not exclusive to the Prestiges. If you go down to the premium line, you also get 5-piece necks on RGs, because I've stated before that the bridges will be made by Gotoh if it's a tremolo or a vibrato. If it's a hardtail, it will be either a Gibraltar or another kind of weird bridges. The Prestige line is going to be, I think, the most boring line of guitars that Ibanez makes. They don't experiment with a lot of new concepts. They just like to make simple guitars really well. Now we're going to talk about frets. Frets in Prestige is going to be either nickel or stainless steel. In premium AZs, it's all stainless steel, but in the 5000 series, it's going to include stainless steel frets. These older 600 series one are going to have nickel frets. People will definitely complain about the fact that they're still using nickel frets on guitars that generally is not cheap, but I don't care that much. I know it's about the longevity, but I prefer nickel frets. As weird as that sounds, if bending on stainless steel frets is like bending on glass, these are like bending on pillows. I'm not going to get into that argument in this video. However, the nickel frets, they don't wear anywhere as quickly as cheaper nickel frets that you'd find in other guitars. Anyways, the fret ends are finished really good in premiums and prestiges. They have the exact same fret treatment style. This will be different in J Customs, but again, we have a DiMarzio stack, Air Norton, and Tone Zone, but this is a Crunch Lab. We have a PCB board switch, and here's where it gets better. These are huge pots. They're massive, and I don't think they'll break as easily as small ones. On premium AZs and RGs, you only get plastic binding. It'll be this type of plastic binding, which has a kind of woodish pattern to it. I kind of like it, like, not gonna lie. But if you go into some prestige RGs, you'll get the traditional like wood binding where they don't paint the sides of it, which also applies to prestige AZs, which are currently in production. This is an Ibanez J Custom RG8527 something. This is a Chinese made trem. While we're on the topic of trems, Ibanez has their flagship tremolo line, which is Edge 0, Edge Pro, Edge, and Low Pro Edge. Those four are the trems that are made to super high standards. When you see a guitar with Edge 02, for example, it's made in China, same as Edge 0, but they're not anywhere as durable. So don't worry when you see Chinese made trems on Ibanez. I've seen a lot of people worry over it, but my Edge Pro and my Edge 0 works the same. They're both great. So when you see fancy top woods on cheaper guitar, they're going to be veneers. It's basically a very thin piece of wood that's just slapped onto your body wood to make it look fancy. These are basically made like how Les Pauls are made, where they have a super thick maple cap and they just put that onto the body. So when you get binding where you don't paint the sides, you can actually see the flame that's coming through. As for the switch, you're going to get, as I've said, the VLX91, which I have a bit trouble with, because the switch likes to get stuck in position 1, 3, and 5. And 2 and 4 is kind of, you have to like jiggle it to get it to fit, which is not a good look on a guitar that costs this much. It's also wild that they don't use locking tuners, so I did put locking tuners on there. The neck is going to be finished better than premiums and prestiges. So they have something that's called Velvet Touch. It's super hard to describe, but it's basically a super matted neck. So even if I'm playing this for hours, it's not gonna get sticky, while the headstock is super shiny. 5-piece wingate and maple neck, same as the Prestige, and the centerpiece will be quarter sawn, also like the Prestige. So when you're going up from a Prestige to a J Custom, you're not really paying for QCs and parts and whatnot at that point. You're basically spending money for the little attention to detail that Ibanez gives. You get recessed knobs, so these are super smooth. You don't have to worry about the thing scratching the body because it is in the body. Beautiful buzz finish and DiMarzio stacks, same as every other guitar. Plus you get these flame maple binding all over the body. Asterisk. Not all J Customs look like this. I had to go through the market for J Customs to find a one where the flame is this nice, because sadly it's the luck of the draw. I'll show you pictures of J Customs with wood that just don't look interesting, which is a shame because it also costs the same, but then you'd have to worry about getting a nice piece of wood on the guitar. Ibanez J Custom do not do stainless frets. They've done it once and they stopped and never did it again. I don't know why that's the case, but I'd love to see it in the future because the frets on these things are amazing. So the frets on here have a ball-in finish. What that means is when the fret wire comes out, they nip the sides, they nip the tangs, because obviously there is binding on here, and then they round the edges before they put it on the guitar and then do the fret job. What that leaves us with is fret ends that are just circular. You're paying for attention to detail. These are awesome. Now for the final boss of all Ibbys are going to be Sugi made J Customs, which are also J Customs, just made in a different factory. This is my RG8670, which I'm not entirely sure is made in Sugi, but people told me that they're made in Sugis. Now here's the thing about Ibanez's history. So when they make Japanese guitars back in the day, in fact this guitar is nearly as old as I am. So the 8570, for example, were originally made in Fujigen and then they moved production to Sugi. And what Sugi Ibanez has is just better wood selection, better material, and at this point you actually get better hardware. I forgot to mention the side dots for all of the guitars. On premiums and some prestiges you get lumen lane. J Customs, you generally get a black side dot. This has abalone side dots. This is a pure black piece of ebony. Both J Customs have mahogany bodies, and this is also a 3-piece body. Also, when you get up to the J Custom ranges, all panels are going to be metal. This has an edge bro on it, super good quality pots, and a VLX91 switch. 5-piece maple bubinga, maple neck. This has figuring. I feel like a gremlin. I'm just like, hee shiny wood. So what should you take out of this video? The more expensive you go, you pay for the wood, the material quality, the craftsmanship, Japanese people's wages, which is significantly higher than China or Indonesia, and playability at this price point is negligible. So the premium currently sits at around 1,000 to 1,500 pound price range, which is not cheap compared to Prestige and J Customs. It's just a different ballgame. My advice to anyone trying to buy Ibanez is trying to find used Prestige and used J Custom. Money where my mouth is. Those are all used guitars. If I decide to sell, I don't lose money. I can just sell it for how much I got it for. Which, if you're okay buying used, the premium just becomes an awkward guitar to buy, right? You do get the cheaper electronics. If you're going to get a guitar within 1,000 to 1,500 pound range, or just less than $2,000, just get a used Prestige. If you're a budget player and you buy used premiums, the standards are going to become awkward because they're priced at 600, 700, 800 pound. For people like me who wants to be budget conscious, but then also get the highest quality guitar possible, look at old J Customs. Just find ones with maybe bad electronics, bad parts and whatnot, because you can find one for 1,500, 1,600 pound, like with all the parts. And even if you want to get professional work done, it's gonna cost less than some new Prestiges. All right, that's the video. Go choose your new guitar.